I was home alone watching horror, and I felt tense as I hated being home alone. So the suspense of the movie added to my anxiety. I don't know why I'm such a crybaby. Maybe I should just not watch scary movies. I got a notification from my phone. It was a Snapchat notification. It was a message. It read, "Check my story." I wondered, who would it be from? As there was no photo on the profile, just black, I scrolled down my Snapchat contacts and viewed their story. I looked closer, squinting my eyes, as it was very dark. I could make out it was some sort of room. I jumped with fright when I realized it was my front door and the story was taken inside my hall. I looked up from the couch where I was sitting into the hall but could not see anything. I realized the story wouldn't have been live, of course. Maybe it was my boyfriend Jake playing some stupid prank on me, but I still felt dread overcome me and was paralyzed with fear. Whoever this is could still be in my house. I got another notification and almost turned my phone off, but knew that wouldn't change anything if someone was actually in my house. I pressed the button and viewed the snap. This time it was a video. I could see the back of my head and my phone in my hand. Whoever was filming this snap was just behind me and is just behind me now. My heart jumped in my chest and I felt like screaming but couldn't as I was frozen with fear. I suddenly felt a hand touch my shoulder and jumped and screamed. A man walked around with a mask, then took the mask off and he stared right at me. Let me introduce myself. You can call me, Jake. You don't know me, as you were too busy stealing my phone the other day. I followed you home, and that's how I know where you live. I was going to call the police, but decided there would be something more creative I could do. I shouted, "Please, please, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal any phone." The man pulled out a phone. "Oh, but you see, you did. I have it all here on camera." Luckily, my good old observant friend caught the whole thing while pretending to be busy texting. He showed me the camera and I felt disgust watching my twin sister kissing my boyfriend. I looked up in fear, hoping he would believe me. That is not me. That is my twin. I looked up in fear, hoping he would believe me. That is not me. That is my twin sister cheating with my goddamn boyfriend. Jake laughed. Do you expect me to believe that? I flicked through my phone and showed him a pic of me and my twin sister Sarah. He looked at it and then back to me. "Well, where is your twin sister then?" I was shaking with fear. "She's at work. She will be home at 12. It was 11:30 now. I said, "That bitch was kissing my boyfriend. I'll lead you right to her if you like." Jake smiled again and said, "Sounds like a plan. But work, wherever that is, well, that's not a place where I can exactly get revenge." I got out my phone and Jake looked at it to see was it his. I knew it wasn't. "I'll call her to come straight home. Let me use my home phone. I have no credit." He nodded. "Go on then, call her now." I picked up the phone and after a few rings she answered. "Please come back home straight after work. I'm in trouble with my project. I need some help. The deadline is tomorrow. It's an emergency." I hung up before any reply. He said to me, "It looks like your twin sister is a thief and someone that stole her own twin sister's boyfriend. Wow, that's bad. This bitch will have what's coming to her." I smiled. "You can say that again? If I knew about her being with my boyfriend, I would have tracked you down myself to you teach her a lesson." At 12:10, my sister pulled up in the driveway in a car and knocked on the door. I opened it and Jake was standing at the side. My sister walked in and a cop came in behind her. Once I saw the cop, I screamed, "Please, help, help, he's in my house." I admitted to the cop afterwards. It was me that stole Jake's phone, but had to pretend it was my twin sister. I held the mute button down when I made the call to my sister. I spoke certain words, so instead of her hearing, "I'm in trouble with my project, I need some help, the deadline is tomorrow, it's an emergency," she heard, "I'm in trouble, I need help, it's an emergency." I was happy that it worked, pressing mute with certain words, so that is all she heard. And I will never ever steal anything again. Marie broke up with her boyfriend, Jason, a month ago and has been single since. She misses the company, going out, having a coffee or having a meal. She found it hard to meet people, and her friends were praising the dating app Tinder. Some even said they met amazing people through the app. Her best friend Sarah is with her boyfriend of 6 months, and they met on Tinder, so she decided to give it a go. She set up a date through Tinder in a local bar where they had a few drinks. Her date was a man in his early 20s called Sam. He had a really good job and she found him dreamy looking, and he seemed to tick all the boxes for her type of guy. There was a guy playing pool next to them, and Marie found it strange what happened. The guy accidentally hit Sam. He turned around to apologize and said, "Oh, sorry, buddy." Sam didn't answer, just gave him a cold, nasty look. Marie found it very, very strange indeed, but overlooked it. After the drinks, Sam asked Marie would she like a drive home, and she knew he only drank coffee in the bar, so there was no reason to refuse. Plus, it was a half-hour walk to her house and she felt very tired. She said that would be great, and they both walked out into Sam's car. When they arrived at Marie's house, they walked up to her door and Marie said, "Thanks." Sam was hoping she'd ask him in, and he felt relief when she said, "Would you like to come in for another coffee?" "Sure," he said. When Marie shut the door, she turned to kiss Sam, and all of a sudden, a man bolted for Sam, knocking him to the ground. Marie screamed in terror, and then realized the man who knocked Sam to the ground was her ex-boyfriend, Jason. She knew he was the jealous type, but never expected him to attack the next guy she met. She shouted at him to stop. Jason suddenly grabbed a gun out of his pocket and shot Sam in the shoulder. Sam fell, holding his shoulder, crying in pain. Marie was trembling in fear with her crazy ex-boyfriend in front of her, holding a gun. He said, "Don't move." Suddenly, Sam pointed a gun right at Jason and shot him in the head. Marie cried hysterically, knowing her ex-boyfriend was just killed before her eyes, but knew if it wasn't him, he would have shot her. Jason looked up at her and said, "Don't worry, it was self-defense." Then she heard movement behind her and turned around to see a large man staring straight at her. It suddenly hit her that her boyfriend wasn't telling her not to move, but he was telling the man behind her not to move to save her. Fear and dread rushed through her, knowing she was alone with two men who would no doubt kill her. Suddenly the door burst open, knocking the guy in front of Marie, and Sam lifted the gun, shouting, "Get back or I'll shoot." It was the man from the bar playing pool. He ducked and rammed right into Sam, then lifted his fist and punched him so hard he knocked him out. He then grabbed the gun, pointing it at the other man, and shouted, "You move one muscle and I'll shoot your head off." Marie had already rang the police. The man introduced himself to Marie after the police arrived and told her, after explaining to the police, he knew there was something off about the guy and knew something was up. When he left a note on the table, he walked over and gave a glance just before a man could pick it up, and it had written on it, "Follow us, I'm going to her house." So he followed them to see what was going on. Marie was thanking her lucky stars, how lucky she was that the man whose name was Tom was observant enough to spot something very sinister was going on. She worried what could have happened to her if he didn't save her, and she promised herself she'd never ever date anyone through Tinder or anyone online again.
I was hanging out at the bar with my friends, and they were talking about this weird guy called Brian B. Westbay on Facebook. The bar was very loud, so I couldn't really follow what they were saying, but it sounded very interesting to me, so I researched it when I went home. It was very strange and lured me in to find out more and more about him. I read in a forum that he wasn't really a person, not human, and was some sort of supernatural entity. There were multiple rumours, but there were two main stories that caught my eye. One was that Brian's account was set up by the government to add as many people on Facebook as they can and spy on them. But there was a glitch in the system, and it gathered no information and brought back no results the government were hoping to get. The second main story is the one that really grabbed my attention and to me sounded more plausible. It was that Brian B. Westbay was a regular everyday guy who was obsessed with social media. He was constantly posting updates from when he woke up and got out of bed in the morning to when he went to sleep at night. One night he got very drunk and came home and started posting very embarrassing stuff, and one of the videos went viral. Brian was so embarrassed he committed suicide. I was looking at his profile and it was mainly empty. There were no updates, no profile picture, etc. But I added him just out of curiosity. A few minutes later, he accepted my request. I was startled when I got a message in my inbox which said, "I am happy to be your friend." I answered back, "Hi Brian, thanks for accepting." I got a reply, "We are friends." And every single message I sent for the next few minutes, I got the same reply, "We are friends." I lost my cool not getting no proper reply, so I typed in capital letters and sent, "Can we speak?" A few seconds later, an audio file was sent, and there was static noise, but I could feel my heart thump in my chest when I heard a weird voice at the end say, "Hello, friend." It frightened me so much I messaged back, "We are not friends." I got back different sad emojis. Suddenly, his profile picture changed to a creepy face. I looked at it and suddenly felt myself drawn to look at it more closely. That night, when I turned off my lights, I saw his face. I felt dread at the vision of the face just inches from me. I froze with fear. As days went by, I kept seeing him, more and more. When I wake up during the night, his creepy face is inches from me, looking right at me. Brian Westby wants to be friends with me and so many more people, I bet. But remember, if you come across his Facebook profile before you add him, just know that he is a friend you can't get rid of.
There was a deadly virus that killed millions of people. We have been in quarantine for 7 months by now, which means I haven't been outside in over 7 months. I miss going outside, but I'd rather be alive. There was this deadly disease carried by bugs that if they bite or stung you, then there's a chance that you can catch the disease and then die. It was deadly for everybody, old and young. Everyone had to stay inside or they could risk losing their lives. We were low on food, so I had to take my chances. Luckily, I brought a lot of food before this whole thing started. I was by myself and haven't seen anybody in the last 7 months. I miss my family and I hope they're still alive. It was my time to leave the house to find more food, so I went out looking for the food and there was bugs everywhere. I had this bodysuit on with a mask so I could try to stay protective. I searched some houses and there was nothing. All the food I found was rotten and there was nobody anywhere. I went around my neighborhood searching and there was still nobody. I took my car and started driving and still I didn't see a single person. Over some time, I realized that there was just me left. I don't know what to do because I felt so lonely and I still couldn't find any food. I couldn't keep living like this, so I knew what I had to do. So I did it. I took off my mask and a bug bit me. I felt dizzy at first, then I fainted. At least now I can be with my family. We still have hope for him. He's our son. We need to go back down there and save him. But sir, if we do that, then we're basically risking the whole human life existence. It's worth it. Let's go back and get him. He's the only hope we have left. But sir, there's no coming back. But okay, we'll do it. Let's just hope those buds aren't alive anymore. Previously, in the last episode,
we left our son on Earth while we escaped off the Earth only because we thought he was dead. But when we got word that he could still possibly be the last human alive on Earth, we knew that we had to risk losing everything to come back and get him, even if that means he's alive. When will we be there?
We just arrived, sir. Still no sign of your son.
I know he has to be here somewhere.
The crew put on their suits and split up to find the son. They were also limited with food supplies, so the faster they find their son, the faster they could get back on the ship.
My son is so smart, he has to be alive. He was a scientist for crying out loud.
Sir, I found your son. Bad news. I don't think he's alive.
I don't care. Bring him back to the ship. He could still be alive.
Sir, I'm sorry, but there's no chance of that. See? Your son, he's been bitten.
I don't care. Bring him back to the ship now.
Wait, sir, your son, he's breathing.
That's good news, scientists. Let's get him back to the ship to do an experiment on him.
Sir, the ship is still 2 miles away, and I only have 7 minutes left of air. Then, I will need to take off the mask. It's either the scientist's life who can do an experiment on the son to figure out a possibly cure, or the life of their only son. This is the hardest decision a father has to make. The father decides,
leave the son and come back to the ship ASAP to get a new mask.
The scientist didn't want to give up on the son and knew there was still hope for him. So, he picked up the son and continued his journey to the ship.
Why aren't they back yet?
Then all of a sudden, the scientist is with the son in his hands, and the scientist falls down. The dad runs and grabs the son and the scientist, but he realizes that they both are too heavy to grab at the same time, so he grabs the son instead of the scientist. He comes back for the scientist and realizes that the scientist had passed away. There goes their hope in finding a cure. The dad is in the ship crying with his son. All of a sudden, the son wakes up.
He's alive, says the father.
The son grabs something out of his pocket and tells his dad that this is the cure. The dad grabs the potion and drinks it immediately as the son is filled with joy because he has just discovered the vaccine to the Bugs virus. His eyes start to widen as he realizes that he just gave his dad the wrong medicine. The medicine he gave his dad was the medicine he was supposed to take when he was trying to kill himself to see his parents, and he accidentally took the potion for the cure. He was supposed to give his dad that medicine, but gave his dad the wrong one. And if you're asking why wasn't he trying to take that medicine before in the last episode, it's because he thought his family was dead and he didn't see a point in living all by himself. As he watches his dad choke, then die right in front of him, he knows what he has to do. He takes the ship into space to look for other forms of life. Just as the ship enters space, it runs out of fuel. The scientist was right. The ship couldn't have made it back. The son is now trapped in the middle of space. It's about 5 years later, and the son is still in the ship with his dad. He was starving and felt like he was about to die. Then, all of a sudden, another spaceship comes next to him and boards his spaceship. As the figure gets closer and closer, the son can't help it, but he closes his eyes just as the figure approaches. Well, at least he's out of his misery. And to this day, nobody knows what or who that figure was. Was it aliens? We may never know. I was 14 at the time. It was an ordinary day. It was a boring Sunday. I had no schoolwork to do or anything. Man, was I bored. So, I decided to go on Instagram for some entertainment. I was scrolling through some pictures and videos. Then all of a sudden, I get a DM. I say, maybe it's someone I know. I go to the DM to check it out, and it's from an older man who I have never seen before. He must have been in his 50s at least. He said that he was looking for a sugar baby. I just responded and told him to leave me alone and that I wasn't interested. When I think about it, I probably should have just blocked him. But then I told him that he was a creep and that I was only 14 years old. Thinking that was the end of it, he responds back to me saying that age is just a number and that he wants to come see me. I told him no, and for him to leave me alone. And I regret it to this day for saying this. But I told him, you don't even know where I live. Then he responds to me with my address and said he is coming to me now. I'm not gonna lie, that scared me a lot, because that was actually my real address. I was a little freaked out, but I tried ignoring it and just continuing my day like nothing happened. The next day came, and I left for school in the morning. I walked to school. It's about a 15-minute walk. Both my parents couldn't pick me up because they both work in the early morning. As I'm walking to school, I see a car behind me. It felt a little weird, as if it was following me, so I ran down a random street to see if the car was actually still following me. And to my surprise, it was. As I was running down the street, I was out of breath and slowed down. The car pulled up to me, and it was the same man I saw on Instagram. I was in shock, and I didn't know what to do, but froze. The man said, "Come in the car, kid. I have some candy for you." I said no thanks, and to leave me alone. I started walking away. He didn't like that, so he followed me from inside the car, then pulled up in front of me, got out of the car, then grabbed me. I was fighting, but he was too strong. He was pulling me to his car. Then another car beeps the horn and says, "I'm calling the police." The man then lets go of me, goes back to his car, and drives away. The person from the other car called my parents and I took the rest of the day off of school to calm down and relax. Missing school that day was the last thing on my mind. It's now 4 years later, and I haven't ever seen the man. I always thought about what would have happened to me if it wasn't for the other car that day. Would I still be alive? I never walked to school since. All I know is I'm lucky to still be alive, and I take every day as it's my last because you never know what could happen.
Louise was looking through her basement one winter night when she discovered something she had never seen before. It was inside a box. What she found was a 16mm film and a projector. She set it up and played the film. To her surprise, it was a film from her childhood. She froze when she saw that she was playing with another little girl. But it wasn't just that she was frightened about seeing her playing with another little girl, but she remembered it was her sister Mary. She had forgotten she had a sister and realized why. Her sister was killed by a drunk driver and the pain was too much for her to bear, so she hid the memory deep in her subconscious until now. It was years ago since she was killed, but she hid the memory because it was her only way of coping with the trauma. Memories came flowing back to her before her sister was killed, and she started crying, wishing her sister was alive with her today. Suddenly the film stopped. It went black. Then something very strange and unexplainable happened. Her sister appeared on the screen. Her sister looked into her eyes from the projector screen and said, "I can come back to you. This town never helped me. This town never helped my killer get brought to justice. But there is a way to me come back. But all I need is your permission." Louise cried, "Yes, please, yes." Then her sister Mary spoke again. "There is more I can do, but once again, I need your permission. I can bring back to life all the people who died in this town." Louise thought she was dreaming, but said, "Yes, yes, please." The next morning, Louise woke up in her bed and realized it was all a dream. She went down to her kitchen and had her breakfast, then decided to take a walk. As she was passing the local graveyard, she heard commotion, and she looked to see what it was. She couldn't believe her eyes when she saw her sister, who didn't age a day, walk up to her and say, "Thanks for helping me come back to life, Louise." Louise was so happy to see her sister, but then she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the people who were causing a commotion faint. As they fainted, she froze in horror as she realized there were bodies come out of the graves in the graveyard. Mary said to Louise, "Don't worry, sister, you won't be affected." Louise asked, "What do you mean? I won't be affected by what?" As this was happening, Louise could see more and more living people drop dead as the dead people rose from their graves. It was then it hit Louise what was happening, but she waited to hear it come out of her little sister's mouth. "You won't die like the rest as the dead rise. You are the one who gave me permission to bring our town's dead population back to life. By our living, be taken over to the other side."
I was working the overnight shift at McDonald's. I know most McDonald's close around midnight, but the one I worked at stayed open all night. I was 17 and dropped out of high school, so I needed a job, and they were in desperation for an overnight manager, so I applied and got the job. I remember during the interview that a lot of people had left that job because of creepy things that would happen overnight. I didn't care. I wasn't the type who would get scared easily, and hey, it was a manager role, which meant more money. So one night when I was on the overnight shift, it was just me and my 2 other coworkers. We weren't that busy, so I said that one of you can go home and the other one needs to close with me. So one of them left and the other one stayed. It was awful quiet for some reason. My employee told me that he was going on his lunch break. I said that's fine, I'll hold down the fort. So he went out there to get his food from his car. He told me that someone broke into his car and that he would worry about it after his shift. While I am waiting for customers to come, I noticed a tall man across the street staring at me. I try not to worry about it, but over time, he would move more and more towards the McDonald's slowly. It was every time I would look away, he would slowly move closer to us. I was in the back washing dishes, then I heard a loud stroke. So I ran up in the front to see what it was. And to my surprise, it was the man. He said, "I want free food." And he kept repeating it over and over. "I want free food. I want free food. I interrupted him. "Sir, I'm sorry, but we cannot give free food." He takes a step back and laughs. His face is so creepy and his clothes are all filthy. This man gave me a bad vibe, as in where this wouldn't end up in a good situation. So, for the safety of me and my other employee, I offer him some free fries. The man twitches his head and smiles. Then, my employee steps in the way and says, "No, we are not giving away free food." I told my employee it's fine, just drop it. Then the man looked very, very angry, and he pulled out a knife and launched at my employee and stabbed him. I went to go help, but the man was strong, and he pushed me down, and I started to run. I didn't see a point in fighting because he had a knife and he was a lot bigger and stronger than me. I ran outside the McDonald's and went to my car to drive to get help. My heart is beating so fast and I could barely breathe. I see the man come outside to my car with the knife and blood all over his clothes and hands. I then take out oh no, I left the keys inside the McDonald's. I was going to open the car and run for it, but then the man's face appears in the window of the car with a grin smile on his face, and he starts laughing and torments me. There's no buildings around, so I assume the car was my only hope in getting away and getting help. I quickly slide over to the passenger seat and I run back into the McDonald's to get my keys. Then he comes around the corner and knocks me down. As he's about to stab me, the man is whacked against the head by my employee and he falls down unconscious. Me and my employee call the cops. The cops investigate and come back out. They tell us, "We have bad news. There's no man in there." Mine and my employee's eyes widen in shock. I didn't sleep that night. I decided to quit that job and I told my employee to quit as well. But my employee was meeting ends on bills, so he couldn't afford to quit. Then, as I'm watching the news, I found out that the man came back that night and killed my employee and the manager on duty. Thank God I wasn't there. I don't think I'll be telling this story. It's been 50 years since that has happened. I still haven't left my house. Haven't shaved in over 50 years. I wonder what it's like outside. As I peek my head outside, I see the man smiling with a knife. I look down, then back up, and he's gone. I look behind me, and there he is. Well, there's the end of the story. That's the story of how I murdered the McDonald's manager who thought he escaped. Now, I can finally retire.